Hello and welcome to VIAVI Quick Tip videos. In this video, I will demonstrate how to configure and enable high-performance iPerf server on VIAVI T-Bird 1500 instrument or MAP 2100 test head for TCP throughput testing from third-party iPerf clients or other T-Bird 1500s. iPerf server is supported on all T-Bird 1500 interfaces from 10, 100, 1000 electrical Ethernet all the way up to 100 gig Ethernet, and can facilitate TCP throughput testing at full line rates, including 100 gigabit. To configure and run high-performance iPerf server on T-Bird 1500, I will need to launch the Layer 4 TCP wire speed application on the appropriate Ethernet test interface. For testing at 1 gigabit over electrical Ethernet, I will need to use T-Bird 1500 electrical Ethernet test port. For testing at 10 gigabit over optical Ethernet, I will need to use T-Bird 1500 10 gigabit optical test port. For testing at 100 gigabit, I will need to use T-Bird 1500 100 gig optical test port, and so on. The procedure to configure iPerf server is essentially the same beyond the appropriate rate and test interface selection. For the purposes of this video, I will use T-Bird 1500 10 gig optical test interface. To configure and enable high-performance iPerf server, I will launch Layer 4 TCP wire speed test application on my T-Bird 1500 first 10 gigabit optical Ethernet test port. To configure the iPerf server, I will go to the Setup screen. First, I will select the Interface and Physical Layer tab and make sure the T-Bird test port configuration is aligned with the circuit under test in terms of auto-negotiation, flow control, and other link parameters. Next, I will select the All Streams tab and configure the T-Bird test port IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. This is the IP address that iPerf server will use to accept connections from iPerf clients. I can also use the DHCP server to obtain that info if one exists in my environment. Next, I will select the TCP host tab. Here, if the circuit under test uses VLAN tagging, I will configure the appropriate VLAN tag and priority. Next, I will select the TCP host settings tab and configure the iPerf server parameters. First, I will select the iPerf version 2. Currently, iPerf server is only supported at version 2. Next, to enable the iPerf server emulation, I will set the TCP host mode parameter to server. Next, I will specify the TCP port the iPerf server will listen to and accept client connections on. Next, I will set the TCP window size to maximum supported. I can also configure the maximal segment size or MSS for the test. Finally, I can specify the type of service or DSCP values to be used on the TCP traffic. I will leave these set to best effort. The high-performance iPerf server is now configured. I can move to the results view to enable it. Here, first, I will turn the laser on and ensure the T-Bird test port has a link to the circuit under test, as indicated by the sync present, sync acquired, and link active LEDs turning green. Next, I will set the results view to TCP host and iPerf output to see the iPerf server status messages. Now I will tap on the Start TCP Server button to enable the iPerf server. The high-performance iPerf server is now running on the TBERT 1500 10GB test port, ready for TCP throughput testing from remote iPerf clients. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your testing.